Renaissance Italy was the crucible of modernity, forging the very foundations of our globalized world. In this pivotal era, visionary thinkers, artists, and innovators converged to shape the course of human history. Join me on a journey through the city-states, masterpieces, and groundbreaking discoveries that ignited a revolution in human thought and creativity. As we delve into the 14th century, Italy's landscape transforms, with the fragmentation of power giving rise to a multitude of independent city-states. These urban centers, such as Florence, Venice, and Milan, become beacons of innovation, each fostering a unique cultural and economic identity. The Medici family in Florence, for instance, emerges as a dominant force in banking, their financial acumen and strategic marriages weaving a complex web of influence that will shape the city's destiny. The likes of the Benci and Peruzzi families also rise to prominence, their commercial innovations, such as the development of double-entry bookkeeping, facilitating the growth of international trade. It is within this vibrant tapestry that the seeds of humanism are sown. Petrarch, the revered poet and scholar, becomes enamored with the works of classical antiquity, scouring the countryside for forgotten manuscripts. His discovery of Cicero's letters in 1345 marks a watershed moment, as the words of ancient Rome's greatest orator spark a renewed fascination with the ideals of classical civilization. Boccaccio, another luminary of this era, contributes to the resurgence of interest in classical texts, his own writings, such as the Decameron, showcasing the power of storytelling to convey moral and philosophical truths. As humanist education begins to take root, the Studia Humanitatis, a curriculum emphasizing the study of classical languages, literature, and history, becomes the cornerstone of intellectual pursuits. The likes of Coluccio Salutati and Giovanni Malpagini established themselves as prominent educators, their teachings instilling in students a profound appreciation for the cultural heritage of ancient Greece and Rome. This philosophical underpinning, with its emphasis on individualism, moral virtue, and the pursuit of knowledge, begins to permeate the fabric of urban life, fostering an environment where artistic innovation and intellectual curiosity can flourish. The political diversity of these city-states proves a catalyst for competition and innovation, as each seeks to outdo its neighbors in the realms of art, architecture, and commerce. The construction of grand public buildings, such as Siena's Palazzo Pubblico, becomes a testament to the civic pride and ambition that defines this era. Meanwhile, the likes of the Visconti and Gonzaga families, ruling over Milan and Mantua respectively, demonstrate the complex interplay between politics and culture, their patronage of artists and thinkers helping to shape the aesthetic and intellectual landscape of their cities. As the 14th century wears on, the city-states of Italy continue to evolve, with economic innovations playing a pivotal role in their growth. In the realm of finance, a revolutionary development emerges: double-entry bookkeeping. This modern accounting system, pioneered by the likes of Luca Pacioli and his contemporaries, enables merchants to track assets, liabilities, and equity with unprecedented precision. By 1375, this method has begun to spread throughout the mercantile centers of Italy, allowing for more efficient management of complex trade networks. Venice, in particular, benefits from this innovation as its maritime trading empire expands across the Mediterranean. The Venetian arsenal, a massive shipyard and naval base, becomes a marvel of organizational efficiency, with thousands of workers laboring to construct and maintain the city's formidable fleet. As Venice solidifies its position as a dominant sea power, its merchants establish a vast network of trade routes, exchanging goods such as spices, textiles, and precious metals with partners from Constantinople to Flanders. In Florence, meanwhile, the Republican government and guild system continue to shape the city's economic landscape. The Arte della Lana, the powerful wool merchants' guild, exercises significant influence over the city's textile industry, regulating everything from raw material imports to finished goods exports. This intricate web of guilds and trade associations allows for a high degree of specialization and cooperation, fostering an environment in which innovation and entrepreneurship can thrive. The Florentine florin, introduced in 1252, has by now become a widely accepted standard of international finance, with its value pegged to the gold content of the coin. As a result, Florence emerges as a hub of international banking, with merchant bankers like the Medici and the Benci family establishing themselves as major players in the global financial landscape. Their expertise in managing complex transactions, including letters of credit and early financial instruments, facilitates the flow of capital across borders, lubricating the wheels of trade and commerce. One notable example of this burgeoning financial sophistication is the use of letters of credit, which allow merchants to transfer funds securely over long distances. By 1400, these instruments had become commonplace in Italian trade, enabling merchants to conduct business with greater ease and confidence. The development of other financial tools, such as bills of exchange and maritime insurance, further reduces the risks associated with international commerce, paving the way for even more ambitious ventures. As the 15th century unfolds, the Medici family continues to consolidate its power, with Cosimo de' Medici emerging as a dominant force in Florentine politics. By 1434, Cosimo has successfully navigated the complexities of factional rivalries, securing his position as the leader of the city's ruling oligarchy. His ascendancy is marked by a shrewd blend of strategic alliances, clever manipulation of the city's institutions, and generous patronage of the arts. The Medici Bank, now a behemoth of international finance, provides the economic foundation for Cosimo's rise, as he leverages its vast resources to further his family's interests. One of Cosimo's most significant endeavors is the establishment of the Platonic Academy, an intellectual hub that brings together some of the era's most prominent thinkers and scholars. Founded in the 1430s, the Academy provides a platform for philosophers, mathematicians, and scientists to engage with the works of Plato and other ancient Greeks, fostering a deeper understanding of classical knowledge. Marsilio Ficino, a brilliant scholar and translator, is instrumental in shaping the Academy's intellectual agenda, producing seminal translations of Plato's works that would go on to influence generations of thinkers. Meanwhile, Filippo Brunelleschi, a visionary architect and engineer, is revolutionizing the urban landscape of Florence. His groundbreaking design for the Duomo, with its soaring dome and elegant proportions, sets a new standard for architectural innovation. Completed in 1436, the Duomo becomes an iconic symbol of Florentine civic pride, as well as a testament to Brunelleschi's unwavering commitment to mathematical precision and aesthetic harmony. His subsequent projects, including the Ospedale degli Innocenti and the Basilica of San Lorenzo, further demonstrate his mastery of proportion, light, and space. As Brunelleschi's architectural style gains widespread acclaim, it intersects with the emerging artistic trends of the early Renaissance. Artists like Masaccio and Fra Angelico begin to experiment with novel techniques, such as linear perspective and sfumato, which enable them to create highly realistic and emotionally charged works. The Medici family, recognizing the value of artistic patronage in promoting their reputation and influence, become major supporters of these innovative artists. Cosimo de' Medici, in particular, is known for his discerning eye and generous commissions, which help to establish Florence as a hub of creative excellence. This confluence of artistic, intellectual, and economic forces gives rise to a distinctively Florentine brand of civic humanism, which emphasizes the importance of individual virtue, moral responsibility, and republican ideals. The city's merchants, artisans, and intellectuals begin to see themselves as active participants in a vibrant, self-governing community, rather than mere subjects of a feudal lord. This shift in consciousness is reflected in the proliferation of public buildings, monuments, and artworks that celebrate the city's history, mythology, and cultural achievements. In 1450, the Medici family commissions Michelozzo to design a grand palace on the Via Larga, which will serve as their primary residence and a symbol of their status. The resulting Palazzo Medici, with its rusticated stone facade and imposing proportions, becomes an iconic landmark in Florence, embodying the perfect blend of elegance, solidity, and civic pride. As the Medici family continues to shape the city's cultural and economic landscape, their influence extends far beyond the confines of Florence, contributing to a broader renaissance that will soon engulf all of Italy. As the Palazzo Medici stood as a testament to the family's wealth and influence, a new generation of artists emerged, poised to revolutionize the art world with their innovative techniques and unparalleled skill. Among them was Leonardo da Vinci, who had recently arrived in Florence from Milan, bringing with him a scientific approach to artistic observation that would forever change the way artists perceived and depicted the world. His fascination with human anatomy, optics, and engineering led him to create detailed drawings of machines, plants, and animals, which he used as reference points for his art. One of Leonardo's earliest masterworks, the Annunciation, showcased his ability to capture the subtleties of light and shadow, as well as his innovative use of sfumato, a technique that created a soft, hazy effect by layering thin glazes of paint. This work, completed in 1472 to 1475, already demonstrated Leonardo's unique blend of artistic talent and scientific curiosity, which would become the hallmark of his career. As he continued to experiment with new techniques, such as chiaroscuro, he began to attract the attention of wealthy patrons, including the Medici family, who recognized the value of his innovative approach to art. Meanwhile, Michelangelo Buonarroti, a young sculptor from a minor noble family, was making a name for himself in Florence with his breathtaking works in marble. His early masterpieces, such as the Battle of the Centaurs and the Madonna of the Stairs, revealed an extraordinary talent for capturing the human form in all its beauty and complexity. Michelangelo's sculptures seemed to pulse with life, as if the stone itself had been infused with a divine energy. As he honed his craft, he became increasingly obsessed with the ideal proportions of the human body, which led him to create some of the most iconic works of the High Renaissance. Raphael Santi, a painter from Urbino, arrived in Florence in 1504, bringing with him a unique sense of harmony and balance that would become the defining characteristic of the High Renaissance aesthetic. His frescoes in the Vatican, such as the School of Athens, showcased his ability to create compositions that were at once beautiful, elegant, and intellectually stimulating. Raphael's use of perspective, which allowed him to create convincing illusions of space and depth, was unparalleled, and his paintings seemed to embody the very essence of classical ideals. As these masters pushed the boundaries of artistic expression, new techniques in perspective and anatomical accuracy became increasingly important. Artists began to study the human body with unprecedented intensity, dissecting corpses and creating detailed drawings of the skeletal and muscular systems. This newfound understanding of human anatomy allowed them to create works that were not only beautiful, but also astonishingly realistic. Leonardo's famous drawing, The Vitruvian Man, created in 1490, exemplified this fusion of art and science, as it depicted a nude figure inscribed within a circle and square, demonstrating the perfect proportions of the human body. The concept of artistic genius, which had begun to take shape during the early Renaissance, now reached its zenith. Artists were no longer seen as mere craftsmen, but as visionary creators, capable of tapping into the divine inspiration that flowed through all great art. The celebrity artist was born, and men like Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael became household names, their works eagerly anticipated and lavishly praised by patrons and critics alike. As the High Renaissance reached its peak, it seemed that nothing was impossible for these masters, who had transcended the mundane boundaries of art to create something truly sublime. In 1503, Michelangelo began work on his iconic statue David, which would take him 3 years to complete. This towering masterpiece, carved from a single block of Carrara marble, embodied the perfect fusion of beauty, proportion, and emotional intensity. As the statue neared completion, it became clear that Michelangelo had created something truly extraordinary, a work that would be remembered for centuries as the epitome of Renaissance art. The David was finally unveiled in 1504, and its impact was immediate, with artists and patrons flocking to see the masterpiece that had set a new standard for sculpture. As the High Renaissance continued to unfold, Leonardo da Vinci turned his attention to an ambitious project, The Last Supper, which he painted in Milan between 1495 and 1498. This monumental work, measuring over 15 feet long, depicted the last meal Jesus shared with his disciples before he was betrayed. Leonardo's innovative use of perspective and composition created a sense of drama and tension, as if the very fate of humanity hung in the balance. The painting's emotional intensity was matched only by its technical virtuosity, as Leonardo used an experimental technique called sfumato to create a soft, hazy effect that seemed to envelop the entire scene. Raphael, meanwhile, continued to refine his unique style, which blended elements of classical harmony with a deep understanding of human psychology. His portraits, such as the Baldassare Castiglione, created in 1514 to 1515, captured the essence of their subjects with uncanny accuracy, conveying a sense of introspection and quiet contemplation that seemed to speak directly to the viewer's soul. As Raphael's reputation grew, he attracted an ever-widening circle of patrons, including the Pope himself, who commissioned him to create some of the most magnificent works of the High Renaissance. As Raphael's frescoes adorned the Vatican's walls, a new era of political thought was unfolding in the shadows. Niccolò Machiavelli, a Florentine diplomat and philosopher, had been observing the tumultuous Italian landscape with great interest. His masterpiece, The Prince, penned in 1513, would revolutionize the concept of realist politics, arguing that a ruler's primary goal should be to maintain power, rather than adhering to traditional moral or ethical standards. This radical idea would resonate throughout the Italian city-states, where cunning and strategic maneuvering had become essential tools for survival. The legacy of Lorenzo the Magnificent, who had once wielded significant influence over Florence, continued to shape the city's politics. The Medici family, though temporarily exiled, still maintained a strong network of allies and sympathizers. Their return to power in 1512, facilitated by the Spanish intervention, marked a significant turning point in Florentine history. The Medici's resurgence would have far-reaching consequences as they skillfully navigated the complex web of alliances and rivalries that defined the Italian Wars. The Italian Wars, which had begun in 1494, continued to ravage the peninsula, drawing in foreign powers such as France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire. The conflict would eventually engulf much of Italy, with city-states like Florence, Venice, and Milan becoming pawns in a larger game of geopolitical intrigue. As foreign armies marched across the Italian countryside, the concept of statecraft began to evolve, with diplomats and strategists seeking new ways to navigate the treacherous landscape. In this context, Baldassare Castiglione's The Courtier, published in 1528, offered a nuanced exploration of diplomatic refinement. This influential treatise outlined the ideal qualities of a courtier, emphasizing the importance of tact, discretion, and strategic communication. As Italian city-states interacted with foreign powers, the development of resident ambassadors became increasingly crucial, facilitating more effective communication and allowing for more sophisticated forms of diplomacy. The establishment of permanent embassies in key cities like Rome, Venice, and Florence marked a significant milestone in the evolution of statecraft. Ambassadors like Francesco Guicciardini, who served as Florentine envoy to Spain, played critical roles in shaping their city-state's foreign policy, negotiating alliances, and gathering vital intelligence on rival powers. As the Italian Wars raged on, these diplomatic efforts would prove essential in determining the fate of individual city-states and the broader balance of power in Italy. Machiavelli's ideas, as expressed in The Prince, continued to resonate throughout the Italian city-states, influencing a new generation of politicians and diplomats. His emphasis on realism, pragmatism, and strategic calculation would shape the decision-making processes of rulers like Cesare Borgia, who sought to expand their territories through cunning and military might. The intersection of politics, diplomacy, and warfare had become increasingly complex, with city-states navigating a treacherous landscape of alliances, rivalries, and shifting loyalties. As the Italian Wars subsided, a new era of intellectual curiosity emerged, marked by significant advances in mathematics and observational astronomy. In 1543, Copernicus's revolutionary heliocentric model of the universe was published, sending shockwaves throughout the scientific community. Mathematicians like Giambattista Benedetti and Guidobaldo del Monte built upon this foundation, developing new theories on perspective, optics, and mechanics. Their work, in turn, influenced a younger generation of scholars, including the brilliant astronomer Tycho Brahe, who would later challenge Aristotelian dogma with his precise celestial observations. Meanwhile, anatomical studies continued to flourish, driven by the pioneering work of Andreas Vesalius, whose groundbreaking textbook, De Humani Corporis Fabrica, 1543, had set a new standard for medical research. Scholars like Gabriele Falloppio and Bartolomeo Eustacchi expanded our understanding of human anatomy, laying the groundwork for future breakthroughs in medicine. The University of Padua, with its emphasis on empirical observation and hands-on dissection, became a hub for anatomical studies, attracting talented scholars from across Europe. Technical innovations also transformed various industries during this period. The art of printing, pioneered by Aldus Manutius in Venice, continued to evolve with the introduction of new typefaces and binding techniques. Glassmaking, another Venetian specialty, reached unprecedented heights as artisans like Vincenzo Miati created exquisite works of crystal and colored glass. Navigation, too, underwent significant changes with the development of more accurate charts, compasses, and sextants. These advances facilitated exploration and trade, connecting Europe to an increasingly global network of commerce and cultural exchange. In Milan, the later periods of Spanish rule brought about a complex interplay of artistic, scientific, and economic developments. The city's strategic location made it a hub for merchants and travelers, while its universities and academies attracted scholars from across Italy and beyond. As the Renaissance spirit waned, a new era of Baroque grandeur emerged, characterized by ornate architecture, dramatic painting, and lavish court spectacles. Under the patronage of powerful families like the Borromeos and the Viscontis, Milan's cultural landscape continued to evolve, reflecting the city's unique blend of Italian, Spanish, and European influences. The influx of Greek scholars fleeing the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople, 1453, had a profound impact on Italian intellectual life, particularly in cities like Venice and Florence. Byzantine influences, carried by these émigrés, infused Western scholarship with new ideas and perspectives, revitalizing interest in classical texts and fueling debates about theology, philosophy, and science. Scholars like Cardinal Bessarion and Demetrius Chalcondyles played key roles in transmitting Greek knowledge to Italian humanists, who eagerly absorbed and integrated these new ideas into their own work. This cross-cultural exchange enriched the intellectual landscape of Italy, laying the groundwork for future breakthroughs in various fields. As the 17th century dawned, a new figure emerged to challenge traditional authority and propel the scientific revolution forward: Galileo Galilei. Born in Pisa in 1564, Galileo had already made a name for himself as a mathematician and physicist, but it was his astronomical observations that would ultimately change the course of history. In 1609, Galileo heard about the invention of the telescope in Holland and, without having seen one, created his own improved version. With this powerful new tool, he observed the night sky, discovering 4 moons orbiting Jupiter, observing the phases of Venus, and studying the imperfections on the moon's surface. Galileo's findings, published in his treatise Sidereus Nuncius, Starry Messenger, in 1610, provided evidence for the Copernican heliocentric model, which placed the sun at the center of the solar system. This challenged the geocentric view, supported by Aristotelian philosophy and Catholic doctrine, which held that the Earth was the center of the universe. The conflict between science and traditional authority had begun, with Galileo's discovery sparking a heated debate among scholars, theologians, and philosophers. The scientific method, pioneered by Galileo, emphasized observation, experimentation, and the formulation of hypotheses based on empirical evidence. This approach, radical for its time, allowed scientists to question established dogma and seek answers through rigorous testing and analysis. As news of Galileo's discoveries spread, a new generation of scientists emerged, eager to apply the scientific method to their own fields of study. In astronomy, figures like Johannes Kepler and Simon Marius made significant contributions, with Kepler's laws of planetary motion providing a fundamental understanding of celestial mechanics. Institutions like the Accademia dei Lincei, Academy of the Lynxes, founded in Rome in 1603, provided a platform for scientists to share their findings and collaborate on research projects. The Accademia, which counted Galileo among its members, promoted a culture of intellectual curiosity and critical thinking, fostering an environment where scientific inquiry could flourish. Other institutions, such as the University of Padua and the Medici court in Florence, also played important roles in supporting scientific research and innovation during this period. As the scientific revolution gained momentum, tensions between science and traditional authority continued to escalate. In 1616, Galileo was summoned to Rome by the Catholic Church, where he was warned not to promote the Copernican theory as fact. Undeterred, Galileo continued to advocate for his views, publishing his Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems in 1632. This work, which presented the Copernican and geocentric models in a fictional dialogue, was seen as a challenge to church authority, leading to Galileo's trial and subsequent house arrest. The conflict between science and traditional authority had far-reaching consequences, influencing not only the development of scientific thought, but also the cultural landscape of Europe. As the Renaissance gave way to the Baroque era, the arts and sciences continued to evolve, reflecting the changing values and priorities of society. In Italy, the opulent decorations and dramatic lighting of Baroque architecture, as seen in the works of Bernini and Borromini, seemed to echo the grandeur and complexity of the natural world, which scientists like Galileo were busy uncovering. The intersection of science, art, and culture during this period was exemplified by the figure of Athanasius Kircher, a German Jesuit scholar who embodied the Renaissance ideal of the universal man. Kircher's works on astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy, as well as his fascination with ancient cultures and mysticism, reflected the eclectic and inquiring spirit of the age. As scientists like Galileo pushed the boundaries of human knowledge, they inspired a new generation of thinkers, artists, and explorers to pursue their passions and challenge established wisdom. In the midst of this intellectual ferment, the scientific method continued to evolve, with figures like Evangelista Torricelli and Bonaventura Cavalieri making significant contributions to mathematics and physics. The study of optics, led by scientists like Francesco Mauerlico and Giovanni Battista Riccioli, shed new light on the nature of vision and the behavior of light, paving the way for future breakthroughs in fields like astronomy and microscopy. As the 17th century unfolded, Renaissance ideals began to spread across Europe, carried by merchants, travelers, and scholars who had been inspired by the cultural and intellectual flowering of Italy. The works of Italian masters like Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael were sought after by monarchs and nobles who commissioned copies and adaptations for their own courts. The Medici family, in particular, played a significant role in disseminating Renaissance culture, as they established connections with royal courts in France, Spain, and England. Italian innovations in global exploration and cartography also had a profound impact on the world. Explorers like Amerigo Vespucci and Giovanni da Verrazzano charted new trade routes and discovered uncharted territories, while cartographers like Herodotus Mercator created maps that reflected the latest geographical knowledge. The Renaissance model of education and scholarship, which emphasized humanism, classical learning, and empirical observation, spread to universities and academies across Europe, shaping the intellectual landscape of the continent. The influence of Renaissance thought on Enlightenment philosophy and modern science was profound. Thinkers like René Descartes, John Locke, and Isaac Newton built upon the foundations laid by Italian philosophers like Machiavelli, Bruno, and Galileo. The scientific method, which emphasized experimentation, observation, and mathematical rigor, became a cornerstone of modern science, while the Renaissance conception of humanism, which emphasized the potential of human beings to achieve great things through education and reason, inspired Enlightenment thinkers to promote the values of tolerance, equality, and individual liberty. Renaissance conceptions of beauty also had a lasting impact on Western culture. The ideal of beauty as proportion, harmony, and balance, which was reflected in the works of artists like Leonardo and Michelangelo, influenced the development of classical music, literature, and architecture. The Renaissance love of ornamentation and decoration, which was evident in the opulent interiors of Italian palaces and churches, also shaped the course of Western design, from the intricate patterns of Baroque furniture to the grandiose landscapes of English gardens. As the 18th century dawned, the legacy of the Renaissance continued to shape European culture. The Enlightenment values of reason, tolerance, and individual liberty, which had been inspired by Renaissance humanism, informed the American and French revolutions, while the scientific method, which had been pioneered by Italian scientists like Galileo, led to major breakthroughs in physics, chemistry, and biology. The Industrial Revolution, which transformed the economic landscape of Europe, was also fueled by Renaissance innovations in technology and engineering, from the water wheel to the steam engine. In the 19th century, the Renaissance legacy continued to evolve, as Romanticism and nationalism drew upon the cultural and artistic heritage of Italy. The Gothic revival movement, which sought to revive the architectural styles of medieval Europe, was inspired by the writings of Italian art historians like Giorgio Vasari, while the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, which sought to revive the artistic ideals of the early Renaissance, was influenced by the works of Italian masters like Botticelli and Fra Angelico. In the 20th century, the Renaissance legacy continued to shape modern culture, from the avant-garde movements of Futurism and Surrealism, which drew upon the experimental spirit of Renaissance art, to the digital revolution, which has transformed the way we communicate, work, and play. The Internet, which has enabled global connectivity and collaboration on an unprecedented scale, is a direct descendant of the Renaissance ideal of a universal library where knowledge and ideas could be shared and disseminated to all. As we conclude our journey through the captivating narrative of Renaissance Italy, it becomes clear that this pivotal era not only reshaped the contours of art, science, and philosophy, but also laid the foundational stones for the modern world as we know it today. The echoes of Renaissance innovations, from the brushstrokes of Leonardo to the celestial observations of Galileo, resonate deeply in the fabric of our contemporary society. The essence of Renaissance humanism, with its emphasis on individual potential, intellectual curiosity, and the pursuit of knowledge, continues to inspire generations, fueling advancements in technology, governance, and culture. In reflecting on this extraordinary period, we are reminded that history is not merely a sequence of events, but a tapestry woven from the threads of human ingenuity, creativity, and perseverance. The Renaissance stands as a testament to what can be achieved when societies value knowledge, foster creativity, and embrace change. As we move forward in our own complex and ever-evolving world, the lessons and legacy of Renaissance Italy offer us a powerful guiding light, encouraging us to strive for excellence, to question the status quo, and to never cease in our pursuit of a brighter, more enlightened future. Thank you for joining me throughout this historical journey. Until we meet again, I'm Herodotus, reminding you that history isn't just a story, it's our story. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.